Hey, this is Alpha for Shock's video guide, and today we're going to be taking a look at a Protoss versus Terran opening, an Oracle Stargate opening into macro play with decently timed forges and fast Twilight Council for charge. The idea of this build is to open up with some harassment using the Oracle, which a lot of Terran players are not too used to dealing with in Heart of the Swarm, because the Oracle is so fast and because it really kills workers and marines so quickly. If the Terran army is caught out of position, the Oracle can really do a ton of damage, force a huge SCV pull, and really just damage the economy of the opponent for really minimal investment from the Protoss. A single Oracle is all we're going to see in this build. Now we see that we've spawned on Belshir Vestige, and we have our two players. In the top left, we have the red Protoss C Shu, who will be falling for this match, and his opponent, the blue Terran Mashiro. We see that Shu is opening up with a 12 gate, a little bit earlier than normal, but he does want to get that Oracle out, so his gateway is going to be a little bit earlier than the normal 13 gate that we might expect. He's also chrono boosting out probes, and he's going to be getting his gas at 14 supply. His first main gas, and we see that he's just continuing to make probes, and now he's at just doing a scout with his probe to make sure that the Terran is to check if the Terran is opening gas or not, and that 16 supply is going to take his second gas. Now this is where the build deviates a little bit from a standard 1-gate expansion. Now usually you don't get that second gas quite so early, but in this build, since you do want to be going for that fast Stargate, you actually want to get the second gas fairly early and actually get it before your second pylon. So we see that we're saturating this gas with 2 probes each. This is better, this is all the gas we need essentially, and it's better than a single geyser with 3 probes on it. So that's a little tip for those of you out there who may not know. So now the Cyber Core is going down, of course, the gateway is up, continuing to produce probes, saving up a little bit of chrono boost for the time being. We did scout that the Terran did not take gas, so Stargate going to be quite viable against this. 1 Rack's fast expansion is usually the best best build to use Stargate against. And we see that chrono boost going down on both Warp Gate and the Stalker, so we want to eliminate that SCV from our base by getting that Stalker out. We actually skipped Zealot, which is not a big deal because we are not going for a super early expansion. But we really want to clear out that SCV so that we can get our Stargate out without being scouted. Now we see that we've actually got our probe over here in a good position to put down a proxy pylon, and now we put down our Stargate at around 24 or 23 supply. Basically, once the scout is cleared from our base, we can put down that Stargate, and we see that we're leaving our Stalker near our base because we're pretty confident that we're playing against the 1 Rack's fast expansion, and because we don't really, we're planning to do the aggression this game, so we're not too worried about any sort of pressure right now because we scouted that the Terran did not take gas. So now at 26 supply, which is very standard timing, we're going to be taking our Nexus at our natural expansion and getting our Mothership Core. Mothership Core, of course, very useful against any sort of pressure. It can be useful for scouting, and now that we've eliminated that SCV, we can actually send the Stalker out onto the map because we know that the Terran is not going to be sending a scout into our base at the moment. Now we're making our first Oracle and chrono boosting it. It's important to save a chrono boost for that Oracle, and continuing to make pylon, add gateways to make sure that we don't get supply blocked, and also to make sure that our production isn't too delayed, because this Stargate does really cut into the production of your army, and the idea is to continue chrono boosting probes behind it and to really contain the Terran with his Oracle, force him to stay in his base with his marines. We see that the Terran player is actually going to get a really lucky scan on this Stargate. A lot of Terran players elect not to scan if they scout the expansion because they assume that nothing dangerous is coming. So we're warping in a couple of sentries just for security. We're going to have our second gateway coming up, and our Oracle is now in the opponent's base, going to town on these workers. A little bit of poor micro is actually going to get sniped there. That shouldn't really happen, but in general, we did kill 5 workers, which is, you know, pretty good. We also forced, more importantly, the Terran to stay in his base with these Marines. He doesn't know if another Oracle is coming. We're now saturating our natural expansion. We're adding a Twilight Council and a Forge, and we're basically going to transition into getting upgrades along with fast charge to defend against any sort of delayed Terran push. The Terran is going to be a little bit behind after losing those workers. He's also had to come back into his main base with his Marines, so he's a tiny bit delayed. And we see that the supply is fairly even, so we're actually not doing too bad. We don't have to worry about any sort of attack because the Mothership Core's Photon Overcharge can defend us against any sort of Marine poke. And from here we're just going to progress into a very standard sort of macro style. Getting that +1 armor, which really impacts... +1 armor is usually good to combo with that charge upgrade because it makes Zealots so effective against Marines. We're also adding a couple of additional gateways now that our natural expansion is saturated so that we can take full advantage of that extra mineral income and gas income. We're taking both of our geysers at our natural expansion because we're going to be wanting to transition into Templar. And from here, we're basically just going to build up units and defend against the eventual Terran push. We do have that Zelnaga Tower, so we should be able to see any sort of push coming. We do have a good proxy pylon location to harass any third base that might get taken. And we see that the supply is fairly even. We're also producing a couple of Phoenixes because we already have the Stargate. Now we're going to use these Phoenixes to just kind of patrol around here and deal with any drops. But from here, we're basically in a very standard macro position. We're adding a couple of additional gateways, and we're just going to try and take our third base once we feel secure enough to do so. So I hope you enjoyed this replay. Feel free to check out our existing library for strategies, tips, and more, and we'll see you next time.